I didn't know how wrong I was until I saw the whole picture. Or in this case, the full set of terrain on this gaming table. When I first saw this wall section, I didn't like it. When I expressed this to Matt, it turned into a heated argument we had in the parking lot. Mini Wargamer Dave here from miniwargaming.com, and for the past 17 years, I've been playing tabletop games on YouTube. And in that time, I've seen just about every kind of terrain piece you can think of. So it pained me to say I hated this terrain piece because Matt worked so hard getting it made. When I first started mini wargaming with Matt, I made terrain. The first experience I had was making modeling flock using sawdust out of Matt's grandpa's workshop. We looked at an online tutorial on how to make flock, which for those who don't know, is the little bits of grass that you put on bases. We'd spread the sawdust over the baking sheet, we'd apply some watered down green paint, dry it all out, and then we would take it out and we'd put it in its own containers and we'd sprinkle it over the dioramas and the basing, and it looked awesome. We thought this would be our business, selling modeling flock. We got so excited, we went to the dollar store to look for shipping containers that were inexpensive, and we had dreams of shipping out this modeling flock to everyone in the entire world so that they can improve their hobby experience. We would quickly and soon realize this was not a sustainable business model. Not only was there modeling flock already available on the market, but it was much better quality and it was produced in much higher quantities. We didn't know what we didn't know. It's a bit of a rude awakening. But in spite of this, it didn't stop that creative outlet. For myself, I focused on making terrain pieces for the tabletop. I made rocks and trees and hills. Ruined buildings became a staple as part of the overall gaming experience. The feeling of accomplishment I had of seeing a project through from start to finish was satisfaction beyond belief. It's the exact same thing as the science project at the science fair. And hey, look at my volcano. Look at it explode. Look how cool this is. It's the exact same feeling. I don't care how old you are, that feeling doesn't go away when you make cool things. At one point, I even made an entire table's worth of terrain which consisted of buildings and catwalks and smokestacks and intersecting laneways and multi-levels. It was awesome. Until it all got ruined when I airbrushed the whole thing and there was way too much water in the gun and it made all of the terrain pieces warp because it was made out of foam core. And because I had never seen this before, I had to learn the hard way of going through the pains of making the mistakes of not using the right materials. This is a true story. Learn from my pain. Apply watered down PVA glue to the entire thing and seal it before you spray it with anything. But that begs the question, why? Why do I care so much about this? Why do we, as tabletop gamers, care about the terrain? There's a reason why Warhammer World has an exhibition area where the whole thing is just massive dioramas with hordes of models and armies battling each other that's multi-stories high for people to walk through and experience this grandeur, this escape from the real world. My thought on the whole thing? Immersion. It suspends our disbelief and it transports us to the world in which we imagine ourselves battling on the tabletop. So when I first saw this terrain piece that Matt was working on with iDemo Games, it came as a surprise to me that I not just didn't like it, I actually hated it. I was like, no, you can't have something like this. This does not pass the rule of cool test. I need to genuinely like what I am looking at in order to tell people about it. You can't fake the excitement. We, as an audience, are way too sophisticated. We see right through that. Hey, buy this because we want you to buy it. No, we're not gonna buy it. Sorry, I can tell you don't actually like that thing. So even though you're not saying the words, I can feel what you're saying without you saying it. That's why whenever I make a video about anything, I'm genuinely telling you that I like the thing that I'm talking about. And this, unfortunately, did not pass that test. And perhaps it's because I've seen thousands of terrain pieces before, and maybe I'm spoiled with my visual bias. But would that not give more weight? If this was the first thing I've ever seen, and I had no comparison in my brain, then perhaps I would have been like, whoa, look at this. But because I've seen the stuff at Warhammer World, and I've seen the countless tabletops over the years I've been playing games, and I've built these things myself, and dare I say, I have a very picky eye when it comes to the aesthetics. Didn't pass the test. By expressing this to Matt, it really pissed him off. Like, he got angry. He said, Dave, That isn't fair. You can't come into a project when it's 90% finished and just say you don't like something and say you don't want us to sell it on the Mini Wargaming Forge after all the work and time and effort and creativity that's gone into it. But I was really torn deep down inside because things in the Forge need to be quality. It needs to be prestigious. It needs to be something that genuinely passes that rule of cool. There is a filter when it comes to this stuff. There's 100,000 pieces of terrain and miniatures that we could possibly put in there, but we don't. And the reason why we don't is because they are curated. It's hand selected. Each one passes that test. They need to reflect that genuine rule of cool. Of course, we're gonna have a different idea of what that is, but if I have any say in it, I'm gonna be honest about it. After all, we are a small company that's at the grassroots of building the Forge so that we can make all those products available to whoever wants to purchase them. But then one day, I was walking through the Forge and I saw this. This statue was sitting on the table and it was just there as part of a terrain set. Now at the time I didn't know it was part of the Ruins of Drakenfell terrain set, which happens to be the same thing that this original piece was from. This passed that rule of cool because I stopped in my tracks and I had to see it, I had to look at it. Is it a bit of a visual cheat because of its size? Well, yeah, of course it is. Is there a difference between terrain that is practical in gameplay, providing line of sight and cover and blocking, and then just another terrain piece that is completely aesthetically distracting? Well, of course. The problem was, I didn't see this at first. I only saw one piece of the puzzle. I only saw the practical terrain piece that provides the line of sight blocking and the in-game functionality. Didn't see the whole picture. It's kind of like if someone came up to you and they said, hey, what do you think of my model? And it's only base coated. It's not even fully finished. The obvious answer is, well, show it to me when it's fully painted, and then I'll give you my opinion on it. That's what this was at first. It represented one piece of the entire whole. Now, to Matt's credit, he continued to want to work with me, even though, I'm clearly the villain of the story. Didn't give it a fair assessment or a fair chance. I mean, he's known me since I was 5. There might be just a wee little bit of history there. I don't know about you, but one of my favorite things to do is build a table and imagine myself collecting skulls on it. Every piece of terrain that you see here is part of the Ruins of Drakenfell. If I'm being honest, there's an obscene amount of terrain with this. You can make multiple gaming tables. It's very modular. What we've done is we've compiled it into a number of different bundles. Otherwise, the sky's the limit. Sometimes when there are no limits, the paradox of choice sets in. We don't know where to go. I've since told Matt that I like the terrain set and that it's past the rule of cool because, after all, after seeing the final version of it, I now feel it passes the rule of cool because look at this thing. It doesn't just have the statues and the ruins, it has roads, which are modular and you can make them go wherever you want. You can create a perimeter and you can craft your own stories with the terrain, however you see fit. Whether you're playing games of Age of Sigmar or Warhammer the Old World or Dungeons and Dragons, you have options to craft your own story. Heck, you can even use it in a Warhammer 40K. It also fits a sci-fi setting. It's flexible that way. We are producing this terrain set in the Mini Wargaming Forge. So this is the call to action. Follow the Kickstarter page so that when we launch this campaign, you can be the first to get your terrain set. We're doing this to gauge interest. And if it gets enough interest, well, it just makes sense to do this again. Because after all, we want to sell Modeling Flock. It's only taken 17 years for us to actually do it. Okay, fine. Not Modeling Flock. We'll settle with terrain pieces. That might be a little bit more practical, especially considering we have the Mini Wargaming Forge and we can produce it. And not to change the subject, but I really want to sell a whole bunch of skulls. In fact, if you want skulls, like bundles of skulls, just leave it in the comments. Just say skulls in the comments. That's all you have to do. Don't worry about clicking on this and following the campaign. Just say skulls in the comments. Even though, because you're watching this video, the algorithm has fed it to you and you're interested in terrain, you're gonna get skulls too, because it's gonna go everywhere. Mountains of skulls. Look at this skull right there. It's a very uniquely shaped skull.